HP generó un hito en esta persona. Bueno, ¿quién es Hitendra Patel? Él es el director del Centro de Innovación IXL y también hace miembro del equipo directivo del programa de innovación de la Escuela de Negocios Halt International Business School. Hitendra fue cofundador con Michael Porter del grupo Monitor en la práctica de innovación. Además trabajó como manager senior de Arthur DeLittle. Antes de su proceso como consultor, Hitendra trabajó para Motorola en el negocio de energía portátil, espacio de energía portátil, y es dueño, esta no la sabía, de 6 patentes. Bien interesante. Bueno, también ha ayudado a fundar varias compañías en el área de emprendimiento, ¿sí? Ha publicado varios artículos en diferentes relacionados con tópicos de desarrollo económico en Brasil, en India, Indonesia, Singapur, el Reino Unido y Estados Unidos. Es coautor de varios libros, entre ellos 101 innovaciones que cambian las reglas, el estado del arte de la innovación a nivel de las compañías en Singapur, Greennovate, que es alrededor de la innovación verde, y las compañías, cómo innovar para crear un mundo un poco más sostenible. Su último libro es Connectivate, con todo el tema de transformación digital que estamos viviendo, y fue publicado en el 2012. Y actualmente está trabajando en su quinto libro, que es alrededor de pensar y actuar diferente y hacer la innovación real. Hitendra tiene un MBA de Kellogg School of Management en Estados Unidos, del BSEE de la Universidad de Washington en San Luis, es PhD en Ciencias de Materiales e ingeniero de la Universidad Estatal de Iowa. Hitendra, you are very welcome.
Great, thank you, Carlos. Thank you, everybody. We've got to make that introduction shorter next time.
Tenemos que hacer
it's very long.
Un poco más corto,
first, I'm very happy to be here.
Estoy muy contento de
I think Connect is doing a fantastic job of connecting people. And when you connect people together, then what you're able to do is make more things. So one of the things I want to make sure everybody leaves this room with is how do you get more dots? Because people who have a lot more dots are able to connect the dots. And when you connect the dots, maybe you can make pictures out of it and imagine something different. Those who have more dots will be able to get better pictures. Those who have different dots are able to connect them in different ways to do something different than anybody else. Right, so one of the key messages what Connect is doing is it's giving you a mechanism to connect, but you also have to create more dots. Right? Dots. My background, if you look at me, I look Indian. My grandfather left India to go to Africa, to Zambia. So I'm Asian. But because I was born in Zambia, I'm also African. Right? Because the British ruled Zambia, because British ruled Zambia, I'm also British, European. I went to school in the United States. I spent many years over there, all my education, and I'm also American, North American. And when I graduated with my MBA, I decided to take a backpack and headed down to South America and started a company in Brazil. And to a large extent, fell in love with Mexico, Brazil, and other places. And I'm also South American. And the only question is, if I were to find a wife, where should I find the wife from? Colombia. That's a good question, but the reality is my wife, I should have got a wife from Australia. And then the whole world would be in my hand. Every continent is represented in my background. My wife's from Puerto Rico, so she's a Latina, so it's almost Colombian, but not really. Okay. But the point I'm trying to make in this is because of that experience, I have dots. I have dots about Indian culture. I've got dots about African and African societies. I've got dots about the British and how they think about the laws and how they interact. I've got dots about Americans. I've got dots about Latin Americans. And when you have those dots, you're able to grab all of them, and then when you put them together, they're going to be different than the guy who has got dots only from the United States. They're going to be different than the dots from somebody just from Colombia. So for every one of you, what I encourage you to do is find more dots. Get more dots. You have to get more dots, and you'll be much more able to do more things with what you are going to do. And Connect does that. So with that, I want to thank Marcela. Thank you very much for getting me out here. I appreciate being here. Constanza has been a big force for us in Colombia for a long time, so thank you for having us here. And then the other part of this dots is I teach in a business school. And I've got about 1,000 students, 2,000 students I teach every single year. And those students leave to all kinds of places, locations. And Carlos was one of my students. That makes a dot.
Y él es un puntico.
Think of it like that.
Pensémoslo así.
One of my students worked with me, and he's right here. His name is Ben Savolka, and he went on after working with us at IXL to become the Chief Innovation Officer of Guatemala, of the country of Guatemala. That's another dot. It's a dot for you guys to talk to him, to say what they're doing. Right? And then there's, of course, many other people over here helping things happen, with Herman and others. So thank you very much. I want to make sure, first of all, you guys turn around with somebody and talk to somebody you don't know. Introduce yourself to somebody you don't know. Let's get a new dot.
Hay muchas personas que los pueden conectar.
I'm going to wait.
Entonces háganlo, por favor.
Different. Somebody different. Exchange business cards. Exchange business cards. Find a way to meet for a coffee. Find a way to meet for a coffee to talk about something different. Okay, I'm going to take the meeting back to the stage. It's my stage. Okay. Now, let me explain what you just did. If you want to make innovation real, today innovation is getting harder and harder to do. And if you do not have partners, you do not have people who have other resources and knowledge, you are going to fail. So those who are able to connect with other people and use their knowledge and their resources, you can do a lot more things. So I'm going to keep to that main theme. How will you get more dots, whether it's ideas, or whether it's people, or whether it's assets, to get things done? You need more dots. And then to win, you need to be able to connect the dots in a different way, different than other people, so they don't copy you and they wow you, wow the customer. Right? So just my background, I think Carlos gave a good input in there. I come out of management consulting, and management consulting has got a very strong philosophy. If you want to get something done, get the CEO on your side. If you got the CEO, and you got his attention, he'll give you money, he'll give you support, and whatever you want to implement will happen. That's how management consultants work, that's how McKinsey works, that's how BCG works, and they get the dinner with the CEO. And when we did this sort of work, whether it was at Samex, whether it was at Natura, whether it's a work at Pepsi or Coke, we found that we were able to move organizations into great innovations by putting pressure from the top and making sure everybody did what they did, and the allocation of resources were available, the sponsorship was there, and things would happen. And then when the consultants left, guess what happened? The CEO started looking at other things, the attention went somewhere else, and everything slows down. The ability to keep on pushing goes away because the consultants work from the top down.
se
And
va
that
porque
support,
los
when it goes away, the
consultores
CEO
trabajan
starts
de
looking
arriba
at the
hacia abajo, y
initiatives.
cuando los consultores
So
se
what
van,
we
las
figured
iniciativas
out was,
pierden.
we think there might be a
Entonces, lo que
second
nosotros nos dimos
piece
cuenta
to
es que
this
puede haber una
puzzle to make
segunda
innovation
parte a
real.
este
Let's
rompecabezas
go to the
para hacer
bottom also
realidad la
and do
innovación,
lots
y
of
vamos a
teaching
la parte de abajo
and
y
training
enseñar y capacitar
and education.
y
If you've got
educar.
1,000 people at the
Si
bottom
tienes
who
1000
also
personas
understand
en
how
la
the
parte de
CEOs are
abajo que
thinking,
entienden cómo
now we can push from the
empieza-
bottom and from the top.
piensa el presidente,
And when the
podemos
CEO
hacer
relaxes,
de arriba y de
these
abajo.
guys continue.
Y cuando el presidente se
So
relaja,
that was the idea. So we went to
pueden
business
continuar.
school
Entonces fue la
and
idea
we
de
said,
ir a
how do we
las
take
escuelas
all
de
this knowledge of
administración y dijimos,
consulting
bueno, ¿cómo tomamos el
and
conocimiento de las
convert it
consultoras
into teachable
y
things?
lo
How
convertimos
do we
en cosas
make
que podamos
innovation from
enseñar?
what
¿Cómo
was
hacemos
art
innovación de lo que antes era arte
into a management practice,
y
into a
convertirlo en una
discipline?
práctica
If you teach a
gerencial,
lot of
una
people to do
disciplina?
that,
Si
then
lanzamos
we
a
should be
muchas
able to get
personas,
out there. And so
esto
that's
se
where
puede
how we've
hacer.
come together, where on one side we put the
Y
pressure
así
from
que
the top, which you guys need to do, and on the other side you put pressure from the bottom.
y también empezar a
And
poner
we've got to do
desde
both of
abajo.
them simultaneously,
Y hay que
because if you just
hacerla
do the
al mismo
bottom
tiempo,
up,
porque si solo hacemos
I'm
de
sorry,
abajo hacia
there's
arriba,
not enough support from
lo
the
siento,
CEO
no va a
or the
haber
funding,
apoyo del
resource
presidente, ni
allocation,
va a
and
haber
everything else. If you
apoyo
just do it from the
ni
top,
fondos.
next
Y si
week
solo
or
haces
next year,
hacia
it's going to be
arriba, hacia
61.
abajo, el próximo mes
Following
no
year might be
está.
quality. Another year might be something else,
Y
and
el
the CEO will
próximo
move his
año
attention to the
tampoco.
next big thing. So how do you keep it sticky, and
Entonces,
how do you make it last?
hay que mantenerlo
Okay.
duradero y que perdure.
Well, this is just basically, we've worked with many companies. One of our big attention for innovation is
Una de
you've got to
las
create the excitement to think about the
es que hay que
future.
generar
You've got to see what the
expectativa
future looks like.
y emoción para
Now,
que la
many
gente
of us
piense en el
look from the
futuro.
past to the
Muchos
future,
miramos en
and
el pasado para ver el futuro.
the Scott earlier on told you guys that really, if you look from the past, it's going to slow down. You've got to look into the future, and that's
Si
where
uno
the
mira mucho
opportunities
el
are.
pasado, se desacelera.
So you
y
need
hay
to
que
look at
mirar
trends.
puramente es el futuro. Y miremos
And
las
trends is the
tendencias.
only way you guys are going to
Las
get a view of the
tendencias es la
future.
única manera en que ustedes
I'm
van
going
a
to talk a
poder ver
little
el
bit about
futuro.
that.
Voy a hablar un poco acerca de esto.
So let's go back with a simple
Entonces
question for you guys.
empecemos a la pregunta sencilla.
Carlos earlier on already told you why companies need to innovate.
Carlos
He
ya
showed
les
a
dijo que
whole
las
bunch of
empresas tienen que
companies,
innovar. Les
for
mostró
whatever
muchas
reason,
empresas
were the greatest companies
que
in
por
the
alguna
history of
razón
time.
fueron la mejor
Kodak
empresa en
was
su momento.
fantastic,
Kodak fue
and they were the
fantástico.
world leaders in
Y fueron los
film
líderes
cameras,
mundiales en cámaras y
and they
películas
failed.
y fracasaron.
They're gone.
Ya no están.
And people say they were stupid or they were
La gente
dumb,
dijo, no, es que
or
fueron
they didn't see the
estúpidos.
trends going on in the world. That's
No
how they
vieron las
explain
tendencias
it.
mundiales,
Do
así
you
lo
really
explican.
believe the management
¿Pero
of
ustedes
Kodak
creen
is
en serio
dumb?
que los gerentes de Kodak eran
These
tontos?
are the smartest people in the world. They were hired out of Motorola. They were hired out of one of some of the best
Eran más
companies
altos que
to
los de
move this
Motorola.
company from a chemical company to a digital company.
Y lograron mover esta
But the
empresa a una
problem
empresa de
is,
químicos a una
one of the
empresa
things that
digital.
Carlos had said earlier on,
Pero como
we
dijo
tend
Carlos
to stay
antes, nosotros
focused
tendemos
on
a
the core
enfocarnos
business.
demasiado en nuestro
Core
negocio
business
central.
was at that
El
time
negocio central en
films
ese momento era
that generated 80 to 90%
que
of the
generaba
profits.
80% de la utilidad.
This new business called digital technology and
Estas nuevas
cameras
tecnologías
was generating $1,
digitales
2, 3, $4
generaban
million.
1, 2, 3, 4 millones de
So where do you
dólares.
think all the big senior
¿Dónde creen
executives
que los
will work?
altos ejecutivos se
Where do they want
enfocan?
to work?
¿Dónde quieren trabajar esos
Let's
altos
translate
ejecutivos?
percentage,
Traduzcamos
bonuses. Where do you think the big
porcentajes.
bonuses are?
¿Dónde están los bonos?
And so all the management moves to the place where the money is.
Entonces los gerentes
And
se
the
van
core
a las
business is where
bonificaciones
it
y el
generates all the
negocio
cash.
central, que es
And
donde
that's where they
está
stick
la
to.
plata, pues ahí se queda.
So it's not that Kodak was not aware. The first 500
No es que
patents
Kodak
on
no
digital
sabía, porque
technology
las primeras
was done by these
500
guys.
patentes digitales
However,
pusieron
internally the
Kodak, pero
organization
internamente la
is unwilling to move
organización
around.
no estaba dispuesta
Because
a
there's not a lot of reward
mover,
in
porque
trying
no había
something new and
recompensa
trying
en
something risky.
ensayar algo nuevo y ensayar algo
Okay.
riesgoso.
If you go to my company, I used to work at Motorola.
Digamos, mi empresa como Motorola,
We had a similar problem.
nosotros tuvimos un problema similar.
Our first customer was the US
Nuestro primer
government.
cliente fue el gobierno de los
The US
Estados
government
Unidos.
basically says, make us
El
a
gobierno
cell
de los Estados
phone,
Unidos
a
dijo,
walkie-talkie
"Hágame
for
un
our
celular,
soldiers to work
un
anywhere in the world.
walkie-talkie para que los
So of course we can do
soldados se
that.
comuniquen."
And so guess what? Our soldiers work in
Y ahora nos
Antarctica,
dijeron, mire,
and they also work in the middle of the
trabajan
desert.
en la Antártica,
And
en
if
la
you're in a
mitad del
tank,
desierto.
and the
Si
phone
usted
is sitting on a
está en un
tank, inside the tank in the hot summer day, the phone is to work,
con calor,
105
el
degrees
teléfono tiene
centigrade.
que funcionar
Like seriously?
a 105 grados
105 degrees
Fahrenheit.
centigrade for the phone.
Sí.
And it should work
Y también debe,
where you're in the Arctic with the
cuando estamos en
penguins
el Ártico
at
con los
minus 40.
pingüinos, también tiene que
So
funcionar
we
a
were
menos
great
40.
engineers. And we said, of course we can make it. So we made the phone.
Nosotros decimos, claro que
And
sí.
inside the
lo
phone
hicimos.
wall there's really cool components and
Y
everything
dentro
else.
del
And the
teléfono
phones
hay
are
muchas cosas muy
fantastic.
chéveres y
If
la
they won't break,
componentes
they won't do
muy
anything
buenos,
else.
se rompen, no les pasa nada.
Our phones,
Nuestros
if you get into a
teléfonos.
fight with somebody and you throw it at them,
Si uno
and you
le-
miss and hit the wall,
si uno
there'll be a hole in the wall.
tira un teléfono a
You
alguien
go over,
y
pick
no
the
le
phone
pega,
up,
sino que
and say,
le pega
hey,
la pared, se abre un hueco en
hole
la
in the
pared
wall,
y
phone's
puede
still working.
llamar y decirle a su jefe, oye, le abre un hueco a la pared.
Similarly, if there's a fire,
Si hay
after the fire, you go into the building, you see the phone, you pick it up, says, there was a fire. Phone still works.
Hay un incendio. Pero
we were so proud of our engineering.
Nosotros estábamos muy orgullosos de los ingenieros.
Nokia comes along and realizes a simple idea.
Nokia y dice, tengo una idea más sencilla.
Where do most of the people in the world live?
¿En dónde es que vive la mayoría de la gente en el mundo?
And when it's very cold, they go inside. When it's very hot,
la gente dice, cuando hace mucho frío,
so most people in the world live -10
y la gente
to +45.
Cuando hace mucho calor,
and so we're going to make our phones for that design.
A una temperatura media de 22 grados centígrados.
Genius in terms of requirements.
Fueron genios en términos de requerimientos.
And they make the phone, and the phone comes to us from Nokia. We look at them. Of course, we do benchmarking.
Y nosotros, claro, compramos
el teléfono. And we look at the phone, we listen to it. It goes creak, squeak. We drop the phone, it breaks. We're like, look at this cheap phones.
Estos teléfonos se rompen, son una baratija.
Nokia understood something.
Pero Nokia había entendido
We used to think it's our fault when the phone breaks.
Era nuestra culpa si el teléfono se
drops, it breaks, it's our fault. Nokia says,
se rompe, es nuestra culpa.
What do you guys do when you drop the phone? Whose fault is it?
Nokia dice, si se les rompe el
You took the responsibility. They moved the responsibility to you.
Les pasó la responsabilidad.
So the requirements changed, and that requirement from -10 to +40 was a simple change that brought Nokia phones to the world, and Motorola phones are too expensive.
Los Motorola eran demasiado caros.
Bye-bye, Motorola.
Y de pronto, chao, Motorola.
And we're seeing the same thing with the story on RIM.
Lo mismo pasó
Again, not being able to understand the changing customer requirements.
Necesidades de
and we see changes with Blockbuster, with Google too. Who knows how long Google's going to last? It's hard to believe. When we were at Motorola, I want to make sure if any of you are working for the greatest company in the world, and we were there in the 80s, 90s, we had a meeting one day. They called us all in, the top 100 technologists.
A los 100 técnicos más.
As we walk in, they give us sunglasses.
Y entrar nos dijeron, mire,
Ray-Bans,
gafas,
Motorola.
Ray-Ban con Motorola.
Beautiful sunglasses. We walk in, the CEO standing on the stage.
Estaba ahí en el escenario, dijo, muchachos,
we just hit the $40 billion of cell phones.
Acabamos de vender
100 million cell phones have been sold. We believe the market is of 1 billion.
Que el mercado es de 1.000
We're going to
millones.
become the first $1 trillion
Nos vamos a volver en la primera empresa de $1 trillón. Todos pónganse estas gafas. El futuro es prometedor. Nos pusimos las gafas.
And we felt good.
Y nos sentimos bien.
But guess what that created?
Pero imagínense que creó eso.
Arrogance. Arrogance and lack of humility.
Falta de humildad.
And when that comes up, now our suppliers are coming to us and say, you guys are so good.
Y hoy en día,
and we are. We go to the market, they say, you guys are so good. And we say, we are. Your mother tells you you're so good. And you say, I am.
Sí, todo el mundo
the same thing, you start believing that stuff and you stop listening. So one of the things about innovation is you have to listen.
Lo que tiene que ver la innovación
listen to customers, you listen to suppliers, you listen to everybody. But that arrogance gets in the way. So those of you who are very successful right now, your danger is arrogance. It will happen. Because people will say, oh, you work for this great company.
La gente le está diciendo, uy, usted trabaja para esa empresa, uy, tan bueno, y uno se siente bien.
Those other companies which are not out there, which are flat,
otras empresas que no les están tan bien ahora, ustedes se tienen que mover rápido porque el mundo está cambiando más rápido de lo que ustedes pueden cambiar.
Let me just talk about how to make innovation real. One of the first things that you guys have to examine, I'm just going to go out there, is it's hard. It's what Dr. Eggert said earlier on. It's very, very hard. Innovation is fun. It's creative. It's a lot of fun. But when you actually try and do it, and I'm talking about not the talk, not the concept, not the idea. You try and do it. Everything you know is wrong. And you've got to figure out new ways to do new things. So what's the easiest thing for you to do? Stop doing it and go back and do the old thing. So we tend to go back to the easy things in life. So to make innovation real, we've worked with probably about 100 companies, maybe even more. We made lots of mistakes, we've learned lots of things along the way. But at the end, most of the reasons why innovation is sabotaged in companies, the reasons can be bucketed into 3 or 4 or 5 buckets. We saw 4 buckets early on presented by the professor from StageGate. And somebody might have 5 buckets, somebody might have 3 buckets. But the real idea is we've got to organize our thinking into some sort of structure. Our structure puts in the 3 buckets, saying you need to know, 1, where to innovate. If your company doesn't know where to innovate, if your people don't know where to innovate, then they'll come up with ideas which are irrelevant to your company. They'll come up to you and tell you about the color of the paint. Talk about the food in the cafeteria. Great ideas, but they do not move the needle. We want ideas which move the needle of your business, the financial returns. If you tell your company where to innovate, and as a company it's decided, then you need to know how to innovate. Do you know how? Do you know how to generate ideas? Okay, that's easy. Do you know how to take that idea and make teams out of it? Okay, that might be easy. You know how to make sure the teams are the right sort of people. Do you get the money at the right time? Are you allowed to make a partnership at the right time? Who makes those decisions? And so there's a whole bunch of how part which is missing in innovation.
Muchas preguntas sobre cómo que no.
And therefore, even if you know where and you don't have this, you won't innovate. If you know where, you know how. That's the hardest part now. Is the discipline. How many of you guys have really tried to innovate? Really do something? Is it easy?
¿Es fácil?
No, it's mistakes after mistakes, experiments after experiments, and 1,000 people telling you you'll fail. Right? So the easiest thing for you to do is stop doing it. And therefore, this is the one where it gets difficult. And how do you get discipline to finish what you start?
Tener la disciplina de terminar lo que uno empezó.
And the way you do it, of course, is
la manera de hacerlo es, claro,
what was mentioned, leadership and culture. From the top, the leaders have to make sure they're interested, they're excited, they review regularly. And on the bottom of the side, there are people who are able to do these things because they've got time, space, and other things. I want to talk about these three things in more detail. And where I'll deviate from the previous talk a little bit is I'm going to focus much more on breakthrough innovation. How do you create breakthrough business growth? And how do you make sure you can execute on that? That's where it comes from. I'm not going to talk as much about existing products to market. I'm not going to talk a lot about the incremental. I'm talking about the breakthrough.
Voy a hablar sobre las innovaciones revolucionarias.
So with every framework which comes along,
con cada marco que llega,
this looks very messy,
esto pareciera muy desorganizado.
The thing which sits on the outside is
lo que está por
your strategy.
Es la estrategia.
You need an innovation strategy of where to innovate, where to innovate. Then you need to know how to innovate,
hay que saber cómo innovar.
The capacity. And inside the where, there's some specific details. I'm going to talk about each one of them one at a time.
Voy a hablar de ellos uno a uno.
And then there's the thing about the discipline, the culture, the leadership, the culture,
el liderazgo y para que sucedan las cosas.
Breakthrough innovation is harder than other types of innovation for one reason. The market is uncertain. The technology is uncertain. The business model is uncertain. The channels you go to market is uncertain. And it's got much more complexity in terms of how many uncertainties there are. And therefore, the process which is described earlier on, same process to a large extent, you've got to be much more careful about the steps on the process. The fuzziness of your gates and the fuzziness of your decision making.
Las etapas.
All right, so let me go with first the definition. So I'm going to talk about going around first strategy. How do you develop innovation strategy for your company? And therefore your company will continue innovating. And I'm going to try and get into the how part a little bit. Not so much on the what part, to give you some chance to think about it. All right, so let's go with the first on the top, on innovation strategy. The three questions you got to ask. What's your definition of innovation? Why should you innovate? And where should you innovate? The what part is important. If I come to you guys right now and ask, in your company, what's your definition of innovation? Guess what happens? Some of you will say it's R&D. Some of you will say it's something about the market. Somebody will say it's about ideas or whatever. But if you don't have one definition for it, what you're going to have is a problem in terms of executing anything after that. You need an actionable definition for innovation. So here's what we have seen. We went and researched probably about hundreds of companies in terms of innovations that they do. And I want to use the word innovation. And we asked them, what is an innovation? And they basically said, guys, stop using the word innovation. Put business in front of it.
Negocios.
It will become very clear to you. From now on, when you talk about innovation, say business innovation. Now, what does that mean if it's business innovation? That every activity you do for your company must do what? Create value, right? So very quickly, business innovation is all about the value it generates. So put the word business in front of it. From now on, if you're going to do innovation, it's better create value. We don't want just ideas. We don't want just projects. We want ideas and projects.
Proyectos que podemos comercializar.
So link the word value on the end of it.
Al final.
The second thing we said was,
lo segundo que les dijimos es, mire,
if you're going to innovate, what's the definition of that? And in the US,
En los Estados Unidos,
Northern Europe, there's a little bit of almost a arrogance in this positioning that if it's not new to the world,
si no es nuevo para el mundo,
it's not innovation.
No es innovación.
New to the world.
Nuevo para el mundo.
Now I'm going to go to the other extreme. China. Does China innovate?
China innova.
Or do they copy?
O ellos copian.
Do they make money from it?
Ellos hacen dinero copiando.
Let's go back now, okay?
Sí, empecemos desde el principio.
Is it something new for them?
Esto es algo nuevo para ellos.
It's new for them,
es nuevo para
and it creates new value for them.
Y genera nuevo valor para ellos.
Make sense?
¿Tiene sentido?
I think they're innovating tremendously across things that we don't even understand. We want to call them copycats.
Nosotros los queremos llamar copiadores.
We want to make them look like they're not so clever or anything else. Guess what? Who's making the money today? They are. So in this definition, I want you to embrace one thing. Whatever is new for you, not new to the world. Whatever is new for your company, not new for your competitors.
No nuevo para sus competidores.
Whatever is new for your company,
lo que sea nuevo para su empresa,
should be considered as part of your portfolio for innovation.
Su portafolio de
innovación. It's new.
Lo nuevo.
And then the last part of the question is where does the innovation happen?
Es ¿dónde sucede la innovación?
And we know today innovation is happening everywhere. It's happening in R&D. It's happening in marketing. It's happening in businesses.
En empresas.
And so we know innovation cannot be just in R&D and technology. It can't just be about the product. You could just change the channel.
No puede cambiar el canal.
Just a channel.
Solo el canal.
Completely transform your business.
Y transformar el negocio completamente.
Would you call that innovation?
¿Ustedes llamarían eso innovación?
When McDonald's
básicamente
puts their McDonald's at a gas station.
Ponen McDonald's en una estación.
Did they change the hamburger?
Ellos están cambiando la hamburguesa.
They changed the food, the business pricing model, anything else.
La comida o los
they changed the ingredients.
Los ingredientes.
All they did was change the location.
Lo único que cambiaron fue la ubicación.
Did that make money for them?
¿Y eso les hizo dinero?
A lot.
Mucho.
That's an innovation on basically channels.
En canales.
So now when you look across the opportunity set of where ideas are for innovating, you can see there's ideas in production, ideas in offering, ideas in delivery, ideas in markets.
En mercados, en entrega.
But the best ideas are the ones which cut across.
Las mejores ideas son las que cruzan de una.
Those are the better ideas. So what happens in your organization is somewhere along the way somebody says we need to become more efficient. And they create a thing called an org structure. You familiar with that?
La estructura
marketing, HR, manufacturing, sales. Those are org charts.
Ventas, un organigrama clásico.
That org chart first says we know who works where and who's the boss and how decisions are done. And it creates efficiency. That efficiency creates a problem for innovation. Because the best ideas are going to be across the whole value chain of your company, but this person can't talk to this person who's working in product development. This person can't easily talk to the guys in channels. The guys in marketing can't talk to this guy. But you need the dots from this person to maybe use with this person or this person to create your idea. How do you get the dots from the other people?
¿Cómo obtiene uno los punticos
the org structure works against you.
El organigrama trabaja en contra de uno.
So you got to break the silos somehow.
Los silos, hay que romper
so the definition of innovation is basically if we do anything new across any of these things, from the pricing model to the networks, we can do something amazing.
Que cruce cada una de estas partes.
The bigger idea is the one which connects dots across the whole thing. So let me tell you a story of Enterprise. Are you familiar with Enterprise, the car rental company?
¿Conoce la empresa Enterprise?
When you think of car rental, who's the number one and number two car rental company?
Carros. ¿Quién es el alquiler de carros número 1 o 2 del mundo?
Hertz, Avis.
Ellos.
So Avis and Hertz does this. They look at people like me. They think we're the best customers for them. I travel a lot, and I'll book a ticket with American Express or somebody. American Express will say, "Oh, where are you flying?" You'll say, "I'm going over there." And I say, "Oh, by the way, would you like a hotel room?" I say, "Sure." And I say, "Would you like a car?" And the car will be probably an Avis and Hertz. So there's a marriage between the travel agencies and the car rental companies.
That's
a very strong relationship.
Es una muy buena relación.
Once I book my ticket, the guy will say, "There's a car available for Avis or Hertz. It's $100."
El carro cuesta $100.
And I said, "That's fine." Sorry about that.
Okay, muy bien.
$100. And then I'll rent the car because I work for a company and I'll bill expenses. So $100 is fine.
Les cobro a ellos el carro.
I get on the airplane, I land at the airport, I get out of the airplane, walk down the hallway, and there's an escalator which goes down, and right at the bottom where baggage claim is, are Avis and
la
Hertz.
parte donde reclaman los
Is that expensive real estate?
Avis y Hertz. Eso es
It's very expensive.
bienes raíces caros.
And then further out you got the other ones, quality, budget, and all the way out like cheapo and don't rent for us type of companies.
No funcionan tanto.
Really bad ones. You go to the Avis and you say, hello, I'm Mr. Patel. It's fantastic. The bus outside, get in the bus takes you to the car, into a parking lot. Is the parking lot expensive?
Alguien te lleva al parqueadero y tener un parqueadero es costoso.
And you rent a car usually on a Monday evening, and you return it on Tuesday, Wednesday. And that's the business model of this thing. Enterprises we want to get into this business. And in order for them to do this, they would have probably to do the same thing. Now what happens when you copy somebody?
Pero ¿qué pasa si uno copia a alguien?
When you do the same thing, you will need to have a rental place, a relationship with with a travel agent. You'll have to have a parking lot at the airport. What happens when you play somebody else's game?
¿Qué pasa si uno juega el juego de otro?
Do you come first? This is why the United States has got the world's baseball series, world champions. Why? Nobody else plays it to a large extent. Right? When you play somebody else's game, you lose. When a French movie enters the Oscars in Hollywood, what chances does it have to win?
¿Qué chances tiene de ganar?
Pretty close to zero.
Casi
Who made the rules?
¿Quién inventó las reglas? Hollywood.
If you make a French bottle of wine, or a wine competition, and you take a California wine, bring it to France,
de vinos y lleva
who's going to win?
De California a Francia, ¿quién gana?
There's no way a California wine will win there because the rules were made by those guys. So enterprises, let's change the rules.
Entonces, Enterprise lo que hizo fue cambiar las reglas.
Let's change the rules. Let's use different dots.
Utilicemos otros punticos.
Different dots. So here, let me ask you guys just to innovate. Where do you think are the opportunities for enterprise if you were to start a rental company and not compete with Avis and Hertz? First, look at different customers.
¿Qué harían? Busquen distintos clientes, ¿no?
What other customers are there?
¿Qué otros clientes hay?
Everyday tourists, maybe.
Turistas,
students, perhaps.
Estudiantes.
There are about 1,000 garages in Bogota right now.
1,000 garages.
And in those garages there are about 10 cars getting fixed. Do you think those 10 cars, the owners of those cars, do you think they need a car? Perfect. So there's a big market of about 1,000 to 10,000 people who want a car in Bogota today. Makes sense? Okay, if you want to access those customers, how do you access them? Beautiful, insurance company. So here you are driving your car, you get in an accident. The first thing you do is call. Who do you call? Insurance company, why?
¿Por qué a la aseguradora?
Because you want to make sure you don't pay for it.
Porque uno se quiere asegurar.
That's the real reason for it, right? So you don't want to pay for it.
Porque uno no quiere pagar, quiere que el seguro lo pague.
And you say, hello, I was parked in my car.
Bueno, estaba
not driving, I was parked in my car and somebody came and hit me.
Alguien llegó y me pegó.
Right? Whatever you say. Somebody crashed into me. This pole came over and hit me. All right?
O se me cayó un árbol encima.
I wasn't even there.
Yo ni siquiera estaba ahí.
So you talk to the insurance company, and the insurance company says, hey, guess what? I know you have a car accident,
yo sé que usted tuvo un
but in your insurance policy,
pero en su póliza,
we have an agreement with another car company to rent your cars
empresa que le va a alquilar un carro durante 30 días por $20. ¿Le gustaría?
What's your answer?
¿Cuál es su respuesta?
Of course, it feels free. It feels free to you. Of course. The phone goes click, 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 and transfers over.
Te pasa la llamada a alguien y te dice, hola, señor Patel, y dice, uy, ya me conoce esta persona, uy.
That's IT technology, right? Information moved over to the person, they know who I am. And so they don't even ask me for my driver's license. They say, Mr. Patel, I understand you were in a car accident. Tell me what happened. What do you say? I was parked in my car and somebody came and hit me. You're going to say that thing at least 20 more times before the week is over. Right? And the person says, I'm sorry to hear that.
La persona dice, bueno, lo siento mucho, le va a mandar un carro a usted.
They don't have a parking lot. They bring the car to you.
Y no hay que ir a
recoger. So you're like, wow, this is great, right?
Dices, uy, esto está muy bueno.
Car comes to you.
Viene el carro.
Guy comes out of the car. Usually it's a young
alguien sale
person.
Del carro, pero
he jumps out and says,
joven,
Mr. Patel, here's your car.
Patel, aquí está
here's the
carro,
keys.
Aquí están las llaves.
What happened to you?
¿Qué le pasó a uno?
What happened to you? They ask again. And you're like, somebody likes me, somebody cares about me. And you talk about how you were driving your car and you were doing nothing at all and this idiot came along and hit you. How do you feel? How do you feel about all this right now? You're feeling great about this, guys, aren't you? This is a great company. So now you take the car, you go home, and you call the garage and say, hey, is my car ready? When can it be ready? Garage says always, what's the regular days? How many days? 4 days, 5 days will be ready. 4 days go by. You call them up again. And they say, what do they normally say when you call them 4 days later?
¿Qué dicen cuando uno los vuelve a llamar?
We got busy with other things, it'll take another 4 days.
Otros 4 días.
Now, if you don't have a car, what will you do?
Y si no tienes carro, ¿uno qué hace?
Really angry.
Uno se pone muy
You'll
bravo.
yell, perhaps.
Uno grita.
Right? So in this case, you basically say, no problem, I got a car.
Pero en este caso uno dice, no, no importa, tengo
8 days go by, pick the phone up, you call the guy again. Where's my car? Oh, we ordered some parts, they're coming from Sweden for some reason. Take another 4 days.
Faltan otros 4 días.
The average length of time the cars are rented about 15 days.
El promedio de que estos carros están alquilados.
The car rental cost is $20.
Y el alquiler cuesta $20.
And they're able to generate enough revenue to pay for that car in less than 100 days. Very quickly.
Ingreso para pagar
the business model is quite solid.
El modelo de negocio es bastante sólido.
Okay. Finally, you return the car.
Finalmente uno devuelve el carro.
Now the question is,
y la pregunta es,
how did they collect the payment?
¿Cómo obtienen el pago?
Collect the payment.
¿Cómo recolecta su pago?
Nothing. Insurance company. One bill.
Una sola cuenta.
Enterprise and the insurance company basically says you had 100 customers who used 30 days. One bill and the money goes back.
Un cheque y listo.
Is that beautiful?
¿Bello o no?
What's the offering they give to the world? A car.
¿Qué es la oferta que le dan al mundo? Un carro.
It's just a rental car. That's what Avis does and that's what Hertz does.
Es lo mismo que hace Hertz y Avis.
It's just a car. And what Enterprise did was they changed everything. They changed how you got the car. They changed how they deliver the car. They changed how they price it. They changed how they distribute it.
La distribución.
Guess who's the world's biggest car rental company?
Imagínense quién es hoy la empresa más grande del mundo en alquiler de carros.
Come on, guys.
Adivinen.
Enterprise. And the point over here is what they did was they changed production, they changed the offering, the service and the experiences, they delivered the car to you, they changed the market completely, they changed the pricing model and the business, how they interacted with you and said no money from you, only from the insurance company, and they created partners everywhere. A lot of these rental car companies for Enterprise are in the garages. Change locations.
Trabajan con los mecánicos ahora. Están asociados.
But at the end, all they did was still rent a car.
Siguen siendo
so what I want to make sure you guys think about innovation is
entonces, cuando piensen en
it's happening everywhere,
es que
connected across the whole thing.
Y se conecta con todo.
Any questions?
¿Alguna pregunta?
Take the story with you. Ask yourself in your company, what are you doing around innovation on this thing here?
¿Qué están haciendo para innovar?
So now let me organize your thinking. 4 questions. You guys need to make your ideas actionable and executable. A lot of ideas are not actionable or executable. When you generate your ideas, the eureka. It's beautiful. But you just don't know how to get started. You just don't know how to actually make it happen. So what we do is we ask 4 questions on the idea. Just 4 questions.
Solo 4 preguntas.
What trends are these ideas based on?
¿Sobre qué tendencias están basadas estas ideas? ¿Qué tendencias?
What is the human need it serves?
¿Cuál es la necesidad?
That somebody who has a need will pay money for it.
Alguien tiene una necesidad y va a pagar dinero por satisfacerla.
And if they do pay money for it, how will you collect the money?
¿Cómo vas a recolectar?
What's your business model for collecting the money from that person? Because you delivered something to them through this offering.
Entregues el producto, ¿cómo te van a pagar?
And if you do it and you have that figured out, how do you make sure people can't copy you? How do you make sure in your design of the idea up front others can't copy you? If they copy you, guess what? Who wins?
¿Quién gana?
The customer, because everybody will get the price down. 4 simple questions.
4 preguntas sencillas.
So this question is very important because when you look at innovation as a pipeline, whatever you start, when it comes out, it has to be relevant in the future. It's going to take time to start and to get it out. So you need to be able to see the future when it launches. Some products take 3 weeks to launch, but many take 2 to 3, 4 years to launch. An iPhone, how long do you think it was in the pipeline? When did they think about it, and when did they actually launch it? It was about 2 years. For 2 years it's making its way through the pipeline. And 2 years before they had to imagine what the customer of the future looks like. They had to imagine what technology will be there. And as it makes its way through, out comes the phone and it's relevant for the future. How many of you guys can see the future?
¿Cuántos de ustedes pueden ver el futuro?
Somebody? Anybody? No? All right. We don't have a crystal ball to see the future.
Una bola de cristal para ver el
futuro. So the best thing that we have to see the future is called trends.
Lo mejor que podemos hacer para el futuro es mirar
las tendencias. And the trends happening in the world right now,
en el mundo hoy,
whether it's robotics, whether it's the shifting populations of in the U.S. of Hispanics as the culture transforms. It's the baby boomers, the people who are about my age and 20 years older, who are about to retire and going to spend all that money that we saved up for us. You know how many that is? 60 million people? And each one of us has saved up on average about $500,000.
En Estados Unidos hay 660 millones que se van a retirar y ellos van a empezar a gastarlo en vacaciones. 60 millones de personas que tienen un promedio de $500,000. Eso es mucho dinero, ¿no? Es una tendencia, va a suceder. Se va a retirar y la va a gastar este
dinero. There are ideas being generated right now around biohealth, in technology and science.
Hay nuevas biociencias, biotecnologías.
Where they're beginning to do micro-examination of the cells.
Microexaminación de las células.
The trends of green. The trends of connectivity, the trends of the bottom of the pyramid.
De la tendencia de la parte baja de la pirámide.
Those trends are basically real. It's like a tsunami.
Es como un tsunami.
You want to not say, I don't see it, and then you go, bam, it hits you. What you want to do is get on the surfboard and surf the tsunami as the tsunami starts. Trends are what you want to prepare for.
Las tendencias es lo que te prepara para eso.
You guys get that? In Japan, the average population is getting old. The women in Japan are getting married later, and usually they don't have kids. So today, most young people about 35, 40 years of age have got two parents on top of them. They're about 60 years old. And the Japanese live a long time. They have the highest life expectancy. So on top of these two parents, two more grandparents. And it's like this. This person has to show love to all of them.
Tiene que
to show affection, attention,
mostrarle amor,
whatever.
Afecto a todos, atención.
And it's one of the worst countries for immigration.
Y es uno de los peores.
If you go over there, it's very hard to be
hacia el cual inmigrar.
Part of the community. You have to be Japanese.
Es muy difícil volverse parte de la comunidad.
So in the future, what are your ideas
en
for
el
that?
futuro, ¿qué ideas ven ustedes para esto?
Simple, right? If you're Honda or Toyota, what should your ideas be?
Honda o Toyota, ¿qué ideas tendría?
Make more cars?
¿Es hacer más carros?
The population is going to die.
Pero la población se les va a morir.
Population is going to decline to about 90 million.
La población va a bajar como a 90
What should Honda and Toyota do?
¿Qué debería hacer Honda?
Trends, robotics.
La tendencia son los robots.
Trends, healthcare.
Tendencias es la cuidado de salud.
Let's think about robots to help people get out of bed. Robots to clean your house.
De la cama,
robots to make the medicine to your parents.
Para que le entregue la medicina
robots
a los
look
padres.
Like humans.
Robots que parezcan humanos.
While Germany
mientras que Alemania
and the US has been paying attention to robots which are for the factory floor, for factories, to make the factories more efficient. Japan's focusing on the humanoid, human robot. How did you pay for the robot?
¿Cómo le paga uno al robot?
It's your parents. $1,000? They're struggling to get out of bed. $10,000?
Uno pagaría $10,000 por un robot que le ayude a sacar a su padre de la cama.
One in every house.
Un robot para cada hogar.
Big opportunity.
Una gran oportunidad, sí.
Trends
una gran oportunidad.
makes you see the big things.
Las tendencias le ayudan a ver las grandes ideas. Conecten los puntos.
Now, when you actually make something, you want to make sure the human needs it. A human being needs it.
Cuando uno hace algo, hay que asegurarse de que un ser humano quiere eso que uno está haciendo.
Porque if a human feels a need for it, that human will be willing to give money back for it.
Va a tener la
simple transaction.
Las ganas de dar dinero por esa satisfacer esa necesidad.
Tell me something about needs. You guys have all been told about this very complicated language, unmet needs and this and that. Tell me about needs. What's a basic need?
Sobre necesidades. ¿Qué es una necesidad básica?
So let me help you start. Let's start with something that
entonces pensemos
you will die. What do you need first before you die?
Que uno se va a morir, pero uno que necesita antes de morirse.
Air.
Aire.
Right? In 3 minutes you will die.
Sin aire en 3 minutos.
Do you think you can make money from oxygen?
Uno obtiene dinero de
free everywhere here, right?
Parece que es gratis, pero
go to China.
Vayan a China.
They're selling face masks.
La gente usa máscaras.
Putting things in buildings to clean the air out.
Y tienen filtros de aire.
It's going to be $1 billion to more than $1 billion industry.
Va a ser
What's the next thing that you really become cranky, angry, or you feel like dying?
Que si uno no tiene.
What is 4 days? Something worse happens in less than 4 days.
4 días, ¿qué pasa si uno no come?
Sleep.
No, sueño.
Sleep.
¿Qué pasa si uno
How big do you think the sleep industry is?
¿Qué tan grande creen que
How many beds in the world?
¿Cuántas camas?
How many mattresses?
¿Cuántos colchones?
How many hotel rooms?
¿Cuántos cuartos de hotel?
Huge. And we pay money for those things. A lot of money.
Nosotros pagamos mucho.
What's next? Food.
¿Qué sigue? La comida.
No water. How big is the water industry?
¿Qué tan grande es la industria?
Coca-Cola, Pepsi.
Coca-Cola, Pepsi.
Beer companies, tea, coffee. What's the next need?
Té, café. ¿Cuál es la siguiente necesidad?
Bungie, ADM, Cargill, McDonald's. All the cereal companies.
Todas las compañías de
cereales. What comes after that?
¿Qué sigue?
Sorry? We need mobility. We need to move, right? So first it's our feet, then it's zapatos, the shoes, eventually it's bicycles, cars, aeroplanes, huge industry.
Gran industria.
And then we talk about style and fashion.
Y luego la moda.
How we look. We want to look different than others.
Queremos vernos distinto a los otros.
And there's money to be made there. The safety and security, locks on the doors, protection. Clothes are protection. First level is protection. Protection from the weather.
Protección del medio
ambiente. Keep the good in, keep the bad out.
Lo bueno adentro, lo malo afuera.
You guys, I just want to make sure when you think of innovation, keep it simple on needs.
Que cuando piensen en
if you have a pet, how many of you have a pet?
¿Cuántos de ustedes tienen una mascota?
Dogs, cats, yeah.
Gato, perro.
Bad scenario. Let's say your pet is sick.
Imaginémonos
you take it to the vet.
Mascota está enferma y lo llevan al veterinario.
And the vet says,
y el veterinario dice, hay un problema.
There's something growing inside.
Algo le
está creciendo adentro,
tenemos que abrirlo y sacárselo.
It's going to cost about $2,000 to $3,000.
Va a costar como $2,000 to $3,000.
Who has the need?
¿Quién tiene la necesidad?
The dog,
la mascota,
the vet,
el veterinario,
the owner,
el dueño.
Who's going to pay?
¿Quién va a pagar?
There you go. Simple. Life simplifies when you just say who's going to pay.
Cuando uno piensa en quién.
And then when you ask why do you pay?
Y luego piensa,
why do you think they pay?
Va a pagar? ¿Por qué piensan que esa persona va a pagar?
So we ask why, and you'll come down finally because I love my dog.
Y llega a que
that was the need. Need is love.
Perro, esa es la necesidad del amor.
Need is love. It's very important.
La necesidad del amor es muy importante.
And now you say you're a veterinarian and you say
y ahora que tú eres
the dog
veterinario dices,
is very sick.
El perro está muy enfermo.
Do you love your dog?
¿Usted ama a su perro?
You don't say dog is sick, dog will feel better if you do a surgery.
El perro
the need must be connected to the message.
No, hay que conectar la necesidad.
Right? So that's the thing inside there. And therefore, when you understand the need with your offering, then you might be able to extract the value that you deliver for what they think is fair.
Entonces ellos van a
How many business models do you have in the world?
¿Cuántos modelos de negocios hay en el mundo?
All right, so let's just go simply.
Entonces,
if you go to China and this was on sale in a market, how would you buy it in China, in the market, or in Egypt?
O en Egipto,
you go in and say $1. What do they say?
Dice $1 y ellos que te dicen
$10. Okay, no, $2. They say, oh, you're killing me. $7. And you go back and forth for a long time.
Es una negociación larga.
That's called bartering.
Se llama negociar.
And then somebody else comes and they say, oh, I buy it for $3, let's say. Somebody else might pay $5, somebody else might pay $1. It doesn't matter what they pay, as long as it costs less than what they pay, you collect all the money. Demand supply curve, business is the best way to extract the most value from everybody. Problem is it's too expensive, too much time. But it's the best business model to get the most money out of every transaction. It's beautiful. If you have only one of this, how do you do it?
Si uno tiene solo uno de estos, ¿cómo lo hace?
You auction it. Who wants to pay this? $10? Anybody pay more than $10? 11, 12? And we auction it. Different business model. In a mall,
o en un centro comercial,
fixed price.
Hay un precio fijo.
$10. All right, do you want it or not?
Lo quiere o no.
And then in Colombia, I just learned this. This is a fantastic business model. I went for a haircut. Big hair earlier on. And I went in, I got a haircut, I gave them my credit card.
Y le di mi tarjeta
and they said, how many payments?
Me dieron cuántos
pagos. Like what?
Yo le dije, ¿cómo así?
No idea what that meant. How many payments?
Idea de qué era eso.
So I'm like, what's the right answer? Right?
No sé, la verdad, no sé.
And I find out that in Colombia, the banks and the credit cards have devised that you can pay in small installments. One installment, two installments, three installments, or whatever. Which basically means that anything you want to buy, you can buy now. You can pay in smaller pieces over time. Right? So that's a business model of how do you make people buy something now and collect all the money as quickly as possible. Business model. Business model is very important. You can rent things, you can list things, you can subscription, you can share things, you can trade things.
Intercambiar cosas.
Those who figure business models out make the most money.
And
most companies pay attention on making the offering, the product, but they don't spend time on saying how will we extract the most money from the market in the shortest time to the most number of people. Three simple questions that comes off that. Business models are incredibly powerful. Zipcar, you guys familiar with Zipcar? Zipcar is a car, they rent cars. Right? And they basically says we're going to rent cars by the hour. That's all they changed.
Eso es todo lo que cambiaron.
You can rent a car for the whole day or you can rent it for the hour. And when they did that, they opened the whole market of people who were using taxis.
El mercado
People want taxis or rent a car.
utiliza taxis porque ahora es taxi o alquilar carro.
This model has been around for many years.
Aquí
The
muchos
CD,
años.
remember the CD?
El CD.
$15.
¿Recuerda un CD cuesta?
How many songs did you like on it?
¿Cuántas canciones había en un CD?
Pretty bad deal, huh? $15 to get 2 good songs you like and 10 bad songs.
Y las otras no le gustaban.
And what did Apple do?
¿Qué hizo Apple?
So one song at a time and the market
Una
opens
canción
up.
por vez y abrió.
You get more people to buy more things in
Más
short
gente
time.
compra más cosas en menos tiempo.
Hotels by the hour.
Hoteles por hora.
In the US, you can't get that usually. It's hotels by the day.
Por lo general en los Estados Unidos se consigue.
Hotels by the hour. What a great thing. Which goes out of that. So all these different ideas emerge out of this thing. Business models.
Que pueden surgir de esos modelos de negocios.
And then finally, you got to make sure they can create a barrier to entry. How do you create a barrier to entry is very hard. But you got to think from the beginning. What are we going to do that others can't copy us?
¿Cómo hacer para que no nos
And the way you stop people from copying you are one of 3 things. I'm just going to give you the answer. One is, can you lock your customer in?
Puede uno
unique access.
Vincular.
Or the second one is, can you get very big very quickly so your cost of production goes way down?
La otra es bajar los costos
de producción. The third one is you have unique ways to do something that people love you.
Hacer la manera de manera única para que la gente lo ame a uno. Cosas chéveres,
diferenciación. You got to think very hard how to do those things, and that's the 4 questions. From now on, anybody who comes to you and says, I have an idea, it's a fantastic. What trends is it based on?
Le dice
what human needs does it serve? How will you collect money?
Humana, ¿cómo
and how will you make sure nobody can copy? When you think through those 4 things, that idea is going to have more legs to execution. Because it's relevant in the future. There's somebody at the other side of the pipeline who will pay for it. You've thought of how to collect the money. And you've thought also features which will make it differentiated.
Tienes características que te va a diferenciar.
So let's go down to the higher part of this thing.
Entonces vamos a la parte de abajo.
Okay. So when you want to try and drive an innovation strategy,
entonces cuando uno está diseñando una estrategia de innovación,
you have to make sure
hay que asegurarse
there's a case for change.
De que
if you want to do a breakthrough, no company is going to really make a big effort to do something big unless there's a case for change. A case for change is like what John F. Kennedy said in the 1960s, says the Russians are there, and they got satellites flying around the earth, and the first man who was in space is a Russian, and those Russians are going to make the world a terrible place, and it put fear in people. Right? And then he put hope in people after that. He says, but if we work in winning space, and we can do something in space, we'll get science, technology, and all this cool stuff, we might be able to be the better people, the lesser evil to rule the world.
El menos mal que
and that's how it was positioned. And he created a case for change. In companies, you have cases for changes happening all the time. What's a case for change for a company?
¿Por qué se necesita el cambio en una empresa? ¿Cuál es el caso?
Why should a company change?
¿Por qué una empresa tiene que cambiar y no repetir las cosas que hizo ayer?
Competition.
La competencia es una razón de cambio. Viene la competencia, como los rusos.
Right? What else is changing?
¿Qué más? Es una razón de cambio.
Customers.
Los clientes están
cambiando. The market changes. New opportunities come from markets. They change. So we need to create a case for change.
Entonces hay que crear una razón
and if there's a case for change,
y si hay una razón para cambiar,
that case for change basically says that something's going to happen, something bad's going to happen if you don't change. And what is that bad thing?
¿Y qué es la cosa
mala? In a business, our revenue is going to get less.
Que nuestros ingresos van a bajar.
Our profits are going to decline.
Nuestra utilidad va a bajar.
So you got to create the imagination of what will happen in the future.
Hay que imaginarse qué va a pasar en el futuro.
And if that's the case,
si ese es el
caso, our business is going to get worse. Then what kind of investments are we willing to make today up front? So let me just show you. Case for change. If you do not have a case for change in your company, and the case for change is driven usually by a CEO, by the competition, by changing customer needs, this thing is going to impact your financials. Your revenue will start going down. If you don't fix it, it will go down. If you try and fix it, it might be this, but you'll have to do something extraordinary to stay the path. Do you think Apple has a case for change today? Apple's in trouble.
Apple tiene problemas.
Samsung is a case for change.
Samsung es la razón de cambio.
Eventually Samsung will be in trouble. RIM had the same issue. Every company in the world has the same growth gap.
Tiene esa misma brecha de
crecimiento.
Es real.
Now the question is, if the gap is very big, let's say the gap is about $1 billion.
Esta brecha representa $1.000 millones.
It's a big number.
Es un gran número.
In 3 years from now, everybody is expecting us to make this much money.
Que tengamos todo este dinero.
And this is what we are really going to make.
Este es el dinero que vamos a
the gap is big.
a tener, esta es la brecha.
You ask the next question.
Entonces uno tiene que hacer la siguiente pregunta. ¿Cuánto estamos dispuestos a invertir
to close the gap?
Para cerrar la brecha?
If this is $1 billion,
si esto
how much money should we invest?
¿Cuánto dinero deberíamos invertir?
$100?
$100.
$1,000?
$1,000.
$1 million if the gap is big.
Si la brecha es grande.
Does that make sense to you guys?
¿Eso tiene sentido?
There's a problem in the future.
Va a haber un problema.
How big is the problem? If the problem is very big, then you'll have to invest quite a bit on the side. If the problem is not so big,
si el problema no es
invest
tan grande, hay que invertir menos.
The biggest challenge for all companies, they don't do this. In the intuition, they know there's a problem in the future. They'll say, I want innovation, but they don't quantify it. When they quantify it, it becomes very clear what you have to do. We were at Cemex in Mexico. The company was growing at 30% revenue. And Sam Brown, the CEO, says, I want to innovate the company. So we went around the company and said, guys, let's start innovating. And this is why should we innovate when we're growing so much? There's no reason to. And we said, Sam Brown, you'll tell your company there's going to be a problem in the future. Because right now, nobody is feeling any urgency. So you've got to create the case for change. This is an example of Carlos Ghosn. He basically said, we make cars at Renault, and we are polluting the world. And one day we're going to get into a lot of trouble. We don't want to be known as a company which pollutes, and we want to be the first company which stops polluting and still do transportation. So he basically set a standard, and he says we're going to make zero-emission cars. He set the standard. They still make regular cars, but he says we're going to move to something bigger, called big cars.
Mover hacia los carros más distintos, cero emisiones.
And this is the big vision. Where do we want to go in the future? He says, I want to go to zero emission cars.
Si yo quiero tener carros
Once he did that,
una vez hizo eso,
he then basically says, here's the car industry, zero emission cars is where we want to go to. This is where we normally are in our company. This is where we want to move to.
Aquí es donde estamos.
We could have chosen to make small cars, nano cars. We could have chosen to make fuel cell cars. We're choosing this space. Why? Because we're the best at it.
Porque somos los mejores en esta área.
Then he does the next thing. He says, what do the cars look like?
¿Cómo van a ser los carros?
He hasn't made any of these cars, guys.
No ha hecho ninguno de estos carros. Los carros no se han hecho. Pero ya se está imaginando cómo va a ser el futuro.
Imagining where this company is going to look like in the future.
Cómo va a ser la empresa del futuro.
We are going to be the world leaders in electric cars. Electric cars should look something like this, like this. And they're sketching them, drawing them, prototyping them.
Y lo están dibujando, haciendo prototipos.
And then they say, in order to make these cars of the future,
para poder hacer estos carros del futuro,
what partners do we need?
¿Qué socios necesitamos?
Why do you need partners, guys?
¿Por qué vamos a necesitar socios? ¿Para qué?
Because you're trying to do something you've never done before.
Porque ustedes van a hacer algo que nunca han hecho.
Think of it like this.
Piénsenlo
if it's something that you do know how to do, then you would never look for partners. But if it's something you know how to do, you should do it yesterday.
Socios, pero si sí lo saben hacer, lo deben haber hecho ayer.
You should have just done that.
Háganlo.
Those are hard things, big things to do to change the big picture. So he says, in order to do this, we'll have to be know about batteries. Let's partner with Nissan, charging technologies, charging stations, and he creates a network of partners around the big new place he wants to be.
Una red de socios hacia el futuro que quiere llegar.
In order to do your strategy for innovation, here's what you have to do.
Para poder tener una estrategia de innovación,
you need to agree on the definition.
Tienes que tener una definición.
You need to create the case for change.
Tienes que generar una razón de cambio.
Quantify it into a growth gap.
Tienes que cuantificarlo en términos
whatever the gap is,
de crecimiento.
Agree on how much money you're willing to spend.
Dependiendo de la brecha,
close the gap.
Determinas cuánto invertir.
Identify your next field of play where you want to focus on.
En dónde quieres, a dónde quieres llegar. En qué campo.
And wherever you focus on, think of the partners, the concepts that will go into that field. And what you'll do for second and third.
Que necesitas.
Up to now, this is still blah, blah, blah innovation.
Son palabras, innovación, ¿no?
All right, I want to be very clear. This is about imagining where we want to go.
Es imaginarse.
But what we're doing is getting agreement and alignment of what our future place is going to be. This is what Pepsi did with Indranuvi. When Indranuvi was saying, we sell beverages with sugar, which makes people fat. Somebody's going to sue us. We're going to become the next tobacco. And so, work with her, and then we identified places for them to move into, and we went into things like making snacks, food, and in the end, we moved to healthy beverages. Nobody believed Pepsi could be healthy, so we moved the word healthy to healthier beverages. And we made Pepsi, Diet Pepsi. We made orange juices, teas, and other things, and that's the concepts.
Y esos son conceptos.
The new field of play, case for change, somebody's going to sue us because we make sugar beverages. There's a big issue in our business. We need to move to a new area, carbonated beverages. We move to a new area called healthier beverages. On the healthier beverages, you can imagine Diet Pepsi, orange juice, teas and other things. We'll find partners to do that, and we'll then launch them very quickly out to the market.
Lanzamos productos rápidos al mercado.
And then you got to do it.
Y luego hay que hacerlo.
Then you got to do it.
Luego hay que hacerlo.
To do it, here's what's happening more and more.
Esto es lo que está
is you need a structure for making innovation real.
Para hacer que
many of you guys are already chief innovation officers.
Ya son muchos
the problem with most companies is they'll assign the role of chief innovation officer to a guy in strategy, or a guy in finance, or a guy in marketing, or a guy in R&D. Trouble is those profiles are not the best profiles to do innovation. Remember what I said about innovation being across the company? So if you are a strategy guy, you'll be pulled very much to strategic planning. If you're the finance guy, you're going to look for ROIs and profits at the end of the year. If you're the marketing guy, you get pulled into customer insights and usually customer complaints. And if you're the R&D guy, you can do anything, but you don't know when it's going to be done. Right? What we need is somebody who can pull these guys together and make them think about the future. What's the next space we're going to innovate on? We don't talk about ROI and IRR. We talk about options. We don't talk about basically customer complaints. We talk about insights. And we talk about R&D from the technology and other things. And that person is pulled together. That person used to be the CEO.
Esa persona antes era el presidente.
Because he had access to everybody.
Porque él que tenía acceso
now, just like the Office of Quality, the Office of Technology,
el departamento de
the Office of Innovation is emerging.
El departamento de innovación.
But this person has to be very good by connecting to different areas. But the most important thing he needs is that connection with the CEO. If you are a chief innovation officer and you're not meeting with your CEO once a week or once a month, sharing with him or her what's going on, you're probably going to get relegated to somebody on top of you and somebody below you. Next second, the power of your projects is going to get less and less. The money for your projects is going to be less and less, and they're going to become incremental. You have to keep it up to the CEO. That person needs to be able to get coffee with the CEO. That person needs to meet regularly with a senior person who with this. If you're a CEO here, that's his role. You need to talk to this guy. If you're not, find a way to access the Chief Innovation Officer.
Hazlo.
Okay. The next one which we find is really an issue for you guys is this. Eurekas are very easy to do. You saw the pipeline where Scott talked about a funnel. The funnel is where the Eurekas are generated usually, but this is where you execute it. The big problem with big ideas is you start off big. It's a big idea. But when you start executing it, the idea starts getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Because you de-risk it. And so when you finally execute it, it doesn't give you the power of what you imagined when you started. So the ways you do this are different on how you execute these things. You got to do a lot more experimentation, a lot more iteration. And so be careful of completely plugging it into a PMO system, an existing process for product development. This is slightly different. It was what Scott said. You might have 2 or 3 stages only. It's a different stage gate. Those gates are different. And you got to manage those very differently, especially on these 2 pieces where this is the hardest part of the innovation. This is blah, blah, blah. This is where you actually do the work. You have to experiment. So I want to make sure what you guys understand in here is experiment means to make mistakes. Most projects that you run, you're not allowed to make any mistakes. There's a start and a finish date, and you go all the way through and you're done. And here, you need to meet 3 or 4 cycles of making mistakes, because every time you make a mistake, you learn. How many of you guys learn to ride a bicycle by reading a book? You have to get on the bicycle, fall off. Get on the bicycle, fall off. In innovation, you have to make lots of mistakes to find out what the right thing is. It's called experimentation. And then you got to iterate.
Hay que hacerlo.
So let me just leave this thing over here. I see Carlos is standing up over there telling me I need to go.
Ya me dice que se me acabó el tiempo.
One last message on teams.
Un último mensaje acerca de los equipos.
We heard the message on cross-functional teams.
Ya oímos sobre los equipos.
Cross-functional teams are very important for innovation. But today in Korea we got a word called pali pali.
Tenemos una palabra
in Korea they do innovation fast. Pali pali means fast.
Pali pali es rápido.
And you need to go fast.
Y hay que ir rápido.
And the way you go fast is the person on your team has a great network. If somebody asks me right now, hey, what is the problems on batteries on Boeing, the batteries which are catching fire? I should be able to pick up my cell phone on LinkedIn, send an email to 20 of my friends, and the answer should come back within 5 to 10 minutes.
Obtener una respuesta
I don't need to go study it. I should not go to a conference for it. That's wrong. It takes too long.
Eso toma demasiado tiempo.
The information should come to you now. So build teams with people who've got great networks.
Con personas que tengan grandes redes.
If you want to go, if you need an MBA in your company, don't go get the MBA. Go hire him. Faster.
Si uno necesita un MBA, va y contrata.
Does that make sense?
No vaya usted.
Speed is very important for you to get these things done.
La rapidez es muy importante.
And then I'm going to wrap this thing up for you guys to get innovation real.
La charla sobre cómo hacer que la innovación sea
Innovation is hard. Whatever you're going to do is not going to be easy. You got to partner.
Todo lo que van a hacer tiene.
Partner allows you to get competencies into your company. The Koreans are the most amazing people in the world.
La gente más increíble del mundo.
If you run into them,
si uno se
they don't speak very good English.
Coreano no hablan mucho inglés.
They don't look like they like you.
No,
because they're very quiet and very shy.
Son amables.
Later on, you find out they're really great people. So that's not the issue of the people, but they don't talk a lot.
Pero no hablan mucho.
But this guy's created partnerships in the 70s, 80s, and 90s with all these great companies to get knowledge from those companies to be able to become the world leaders in cell phones, world leaders in computers, world leaders in printers, world leaders in cars, world leaders in everything. Through partnering. You guys want to get a shortcut to getting things done? Think partnering. It's a very fast way to get things done. Okay, so with that, I'm going to just stop here. Carlos, is that good? And basically tell you guys, innovation is hard. You need a strategy. You need to know how to do it. And lastly, you'll need discipline to make that happen. We'll give the slides. Distribute them if you want.
Distribuiremos estas diapositivas a los que quieran.
Muchas gracias.
Okay.
Iniciamos con 30 minutos de preguntas. Francisco.
I would like to talk or ask you about trends.
Me gustaría preguntarte acerca de las tendencias.
I remember when the quality movement
Recuerdo cuando el movimiento de la calidad empezó en los 80s, cuando América descubrió lo que estaba pasando en Japón.
Mr. Deming,
y el señor
was the man behind that.
Deming, y luego todos empezaron a hablar sobre la calidad. Hoy la calidad no es el fin, es el punto de partida para cualquier cosa. Me pregunto qué pasaría con la innovación, qué pasará con la innovación y qué tendencias van a cambiar y cuál será el futuro. Porque una de las cosas que nos preocupa a un país como Colombia es que estamos muy lejos de otros países. Y lo que yo he visto viajando alrededor del mundo, que para tener la mentalidad adecuada para un país como este toma mucho tiempo. Ya mencionaste algunos de los factores, el primero siendo la cultura. No se puede cambiar la cultura de un día a otro. Como esto toma mucho tiempo, estamos haciendo un trabajo y de pronto estamos hablando de otra cosa y no nos estamos enfocando en lo que tenemos que estar haciendo y de repente nos enfrentamos a otros retos.
So one of the things we see in innovation is when you go into a company, you'll get excited about it.
Nosotros vemos esto mucho.
When you leave the company, or when the company, you go back to the company 2 or 3 years later, you'll see the innovation initiatives have become Six Sigma initiatives.
de innovación se han vuelto iniciativas de Six Sigma y vuelven
and that happens a lot because one of the things about innovation is you got to get the pressure. You don't get the pressure for saying do something different, do something different, then people relax back. So at the high level, there's something about a discipline of keeping the pressure. Saying we want to be better, we want to be setting high targets and always wanting to go for it. Just as an example, if you fold your arms, just go ahead and fold your arms, everybody.
El ejemplo es, bueno, ahora crucemos todos los brazos.
See how that feels. That feels pretty good right now because you're used to it. Now fold it the other way.
Ahora crúcenlos de la otra manera.
Unfold and fold it the other way.
Crúcenlos.
How does that feel?
¿Cómo se siente eso?
It's just clumsy and messy, right? No, stay that way. Don't change.
Quédense así un rato.
It's just clumsy. And I'm going to come to you from now on every day and ask you to do this. And then one day I forget to ask you to do this. Now, what do you do?
¿Y qué hacen? Lo cruzan.
You go back to the old way. So this thing about keeping the pressure is the biggest issue in companies and keeping innovation as an initiative going. Because people relax back to the easy. This is easy.
Porque la gente vuelve a lo fácil.
The other one is a little hard. It's different.
La otra es más difícil porque
so you need to keep the pressure on that.
Hay que mantener la presión.
I think your culture is not the problem. I want to be very clear to all of you guys. People complain about the culture.
La gente se queja de su cultura colombiana, pero es lo que tiene.
You can't change it. You go into a company, when Samex came to us and said, can you change our culture? We said, Zambrano, there's only one way we can help you do that. You'll have to fire one-third of the people. You'll have to train one-third of the people to become better. And rehire one-third. It'll take you 3 years. It'll cost you tens to hundreds of millions of dollars. If any one of you is charged in transforming culture, you need the support of the senior executives. You need the support of HR, you need the support of many things to make it happen. It's going to be a long journey. Good luck.
Buena suerte.
Don't get sucked into that one. My suggestion is, at any moment, companies around the world are innovating. Your companies are innovating. And find those who are innovating, and find how they navigate the company. They figured it out. There's somebody in your company who's always able to get funding for his ideas, he gets support for what he wants to do, and we call that the unwritten rule. There's a rule on how to do it correctly, and then there's the unwritten rule by which how things get done.
Y así es como las
cosas. Take the unwritten rules of how things get done and make them the official.
Miren estas maneras, reglas no escritas.
Use your culture. Don't fight against the river.
No peleen en contra de la
Swim with the culture. You'll go faster. Engineering companies. Most engineering companies look a lot like many of the companies I see in Latin America.
Son como muchas empresas
engineering companies are hierarchical.
Son mucha jerarquía.
Engineering companies are basically if the boss says do this, you do it.
Que si el jefe dice lo hacemos.
There's not so much consensus-driven work. But they're all over the U.S. I'll be very clear. Many American companies are those type of companies. There are other companies over here where you see they're very consensus-driven. Okay, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And those exist too. So I don't think the culture is really the issue. Use the culture, understand the best of the culture, and use it. And don't complain about the worst of it.
No se queje de lo malo de la cultura.
Every culture innovated. Colombia didn't become what it is today.
Colombia no se volvió lo que es hoy sin la innovación.
Successful cities,
una empresa exitosa,
successful people,
ciudades exitosas,
successful companies. You have that. It's happened. It will happen again. Keep on happening. As long as you expect greatness. As long as you don't aim for the mediocre.
Mientras que no le apuntes a lo mediocre está bien.
Aim high, even if you meet halfway, it's pretty good.
Si llegas a la mitad, eso va a ser suficientemente bueno. Pero si empiezas por lo bajo,
you'll get not so much.
No vas a llegar a ningún lado.
So that's what I see. The other part of this thing, just keep in mind, guys, is the world got flat.
Que el mundo se aplanó.
What does that mean?
¿Qué significa que el mundo se aplanó?
You don't have to go to MIT.
Significa que hoy no hay que ir a MIT.
The courses of MIT are available online at Coursera or EDX, and you can study it right now.
Y los pueden meter a un curso.
You can get the guy who worked at Apple design, Apple marketing, pay him enough money, he'll move over here. People are moving very easily. China does it all the time.
China lo hace todo el tiempo.
So you can hire people, the consultants everywhere sharing as much knowledge as they can.
Consultores que quieren repartir el conocimiento.
China is doing it, Korea did it.
China lo hizo, Corea lo hizo, ¿por qué no lo pueden hacer ustedes también?
Okay. Is that helpful? Did I answer your question or I didn't answer your question?
¿Respondí tu pregunta o no?
Seen all over the place around the world. Innovation is the center of the strategic conversation for governments,
hoy en día la innovación es el centro de las
communities.
de las conversaciones en gobiernos, comunidades, empresas. Y eso es, digo que
if you go to 1990 and look at all the annual reports of American companies, innovation was always on the cover somewhere.
La gente siempre habla de innovación, siempre
it's just that people are using it too much now and they don't understand what it means.
Y no entiende bien qué significa.
The word innovation has lost its
meaning. La palabra innovación perdió su significado.
But back then it was about growth.
En ese entonces tenía que
ver con crecimiento. The fundamental driver of
y tenía que ver con
because anything that you created
value. Que se crea,
anything you bought was basically an exchange of a balance sheet.
Era el intercambio de estado de balances.
Knowledge economy, is this Porter talks about it, many other people have talked about it. It has to keep on going. It's been happening. This is not a new phenomenon. Innovation has been around.
Nuevo. La innovación lleva aquí
it's just that we are beginning to put energy around this thing. Everybody should innovate.
Poniéndole más energía y decir que
be careful about that also. I don't think everybody needs to innovate.
No creo que todos tienen que
innovar. I don't think everybody can innovate.
No creo que
in the US, one company like Apple comes out, and behind Apple becomes a lot of rich people, then they spend money and they buy other things like Tesla, which probably should not be a successful company. Becomes successful because this guy's all billionaires here. They buy Tesla cars. So in the US, 10 companies made Chicago, 10 companies made, let's say, Silicon Valley. And those 10 companies created thousands of jobs and thousands of jobs behind that.
Empleos y miles de empleos detrás de
ellos. Stay focused on your winners. Don't focus on your everybody. Too many people are throwing too many seeds out there, hoping that it'll all flower and one of them will become a tree. Find the winners, support the winners.
Encuentren los ganadores y apoyen a los ganadores.
Okay.
So I have a question. I am Sandra Hurtado, R&D Manager of Levapon.
Yo soy Sandra Hurtado.
I would like to know
Quiero saber
what would you recommend for startups
¿Qué recomendaría para empresas nuevas y emprendedores?
Those models seems to work in a
Porque
big company,
modelo parece que funciona en las empresas grandes, pero las en pequeñas.
What would you recommend?
¿Qué recomendarías?
So in a small or any place, I'm going to say for both places, one of the biggest mistakes that we have done as business school professors or chief or the finance guys and the strategy guys is they demand the business plan. Show me the business plan.
Un plan de negocios.
Now the business plan is the worst thing you can really do. Ask any entrepreneur, did they actually do a business plan? Did Mark Zuckerberg make a business plan?
Si Mark Zuckerberg hizo un plan
he sat in his room and he programmed. Right? Did Bill Gates do a business plan? Did Steve Jobs do a business plan? None of them did any of the business plans. I'll share a story with you. My father in Zambia wanted to become an entrepreneur. So he says, I want to make a factory, clothing factory. So what does he do? Business plan?
Plan de negocios no.
He goes into the stores and he buys different clothes from the stores. And he buys a whole bunch of clothes and then he cuts the label off of all the things he bought. So you cannot see the brand or the markers of that. Then he goes back to the same stores and says, which of this would you buy? And they say, oh, I like this, or I like this, I like this. And very quickly he comes to a conclusion that in Zambia, school uniforms are not being supplied. They're looking for school uniforms for kids. So then he says, okay. So then he buys a whole bunch of school uniforms and he says, these are samples. And he puts a mark on it for his name, Patel and Company, and he said, how many of this will you buy? And he goes to all the different stores and gets orders. Right? And then he says, okay, people want to buy this thing, this is great. So then he says, how do I manufacture it? So he goes to the place where people are making some clothes and he says, can you make this for me? Can you make this for me? And he's asking many different people. And one of them says at night you can use the machines and you can pay rent for it, but you can use the machines at night. You don't have to buy the machines. Wow. So then he says, now I'll write my business plan. The market I'm going to go for is students, school uniforms. I'll sell it through these stores. This is the price for it. I will manufacture it in this way. The cost of manufacturing is this. I need this much money to make it happen, and in some partners to invest into. I need one sales guy, one marketing guy. Does that make sense? Do. Don't talk. Get out of the conference room. Go talk to the people. And the same for innovation in the company and outside the company. Get out of the conference room. Start rolling up the sleeves. And every time you do something, you'll make a mistake. And you will learn what not to do. Versus on the PowerPoint, you learn nothing. Nothing. That PowerPoint's terrible. Those business plans are terrible. You need them to convince other people to join you. You don't need them. You know what you want to do. Does that make sense? Okay. So the expression is don't put the horse behind the cart. The business plan goes behind. Do. Experience. Experiment.
¿Preguntas? Okay.
Hi, my name is Antonio Rivadeneira. I work in a technology company. Watching your Korean example, I saw that IBM is a partner, a Samsung partner. I'm gonna ask for your opinion about how IBM can do it, can do yearly just 6,000 patents, and how can they make innovation?
So one is there's a partnership with Samsung and IBM. So IBM is very clever in understanding when to partner, when not to partner. So he sees Samsung as a distributor of its IP, and he can collect money from it through a product or through licensing. It doesn't matter how it makes money from it. Samsung is very clever and says, I don't have that knowledge, and I need to somehow get that knowledge from IBM, so it makes a partnership on that. So both people are winning. It's a win-win. The trouble sometimes is one side eventually wins and one loses, and that's when we don't get happy about it. But that's hard to manage. Right? So IBM had 6,000 patents. Today those patents are available to all of us. I don't know if you know that. You can use them if you want to. And if you do make money from it, you got to give them a licensing fee. So they have a business model also on everything they've created. They know they cannot commercialize. So sometimes it's better for you to take your knowledge and give it to somebody else so they can make money from it and give you some money back instead of keeping everything inside. Those are choices. But the Koreans, I want to just make sure you guys understand. I was in Korea at LG, and I helped them build the flat panel display factories, which are like big football soccer fields. They basically say, here's what we want to do, here's what we need to know how to do, here's what we don't know, and who are the partners. And then they quickly go get the partners to get things done. A lot of people are entrepreneurs, a lot of people are innovators, they think they have to do everything themselves. And when you do that, that takes too much time. And you'll never get there. Because today the world is pali. Go fast. Because if you don't go fast, your competitor is. And you will not get out to the market quickly enough. Right? So partnering is not a bad way to do it, but sometimes if you don't understand the cultures and the rules, you feel one will steal from you. Unfortunately, if you don't partner, you'll lose. If you partner, you might lose. You better partner. It's not a bad choice. Right? So. Good.
Hi, my name is David. I am in the software industry. I have a question about facing competition with big companies. You know, apps industry is exploding everywhere. But how to face this big companies like Google innovating all the time, and you are just a startup? And you have a good idea and you want to pull it, and you struggle financially and in many other ways. And finally, you have something working, and then you realize that Google has it already. So how do you face that?
Right. So a couple of things. I think there's a bigger question being asked here. Entrepreneur, right? Who's the boss in entrepreneur?
¿Quién es el jefe del emprendedor?
You are the boss, right? In a company, when somebody says, here's the idea, do it, who's the boss?
Dice, mire, tengo una idea.
You have a boss, right? You got somebody who's, that's one big problem right there, right? How do you make your team as entrepreneur? You find them. You choose them. How do you make a team in a company? You're given a team. And sometimes it's a bad team. Right? The third thing over here is who makes decisions quickly? Entrepreneurs or the big company? The entrepreneur makes a decision very quickly. The other guy has to ask people for decisions. Who's got lots of resources? The big company. You are starving.
No.
But when you're starving, what do?
Pero cuando no tienes dinero, ¿qué haces?
You're more creative and more likely to partner. You're looking for other people to help you get bigger, faster, and all that. So when you look at the pros and cons, the entrepreneur is more nimble, is faster, quicker, and more likely to partner. At Google, it's one project of probably 30, 40 in the portfolio. And you don't have the best people working on all the projects. And when it comes out to the market, it still competes with the other 10 ideas they have. So Google may still bring it out. It'll still die most of the time. But you have focus. You care about it. So entrepreneurs are the ones who have an ability to take what we will say, oh, Google already did it, but they made no money from it. We've heard that story 1,000 times. Oh, IBM had that idea and they did nothing with it. Xerox had, they didn't do anything with it. It's not that these guys were stupid. They were doing a lot of other things also. They had to choose. Stay the path perhaps, and they'll quit. Or call them up and join with them. Partner. But, okay, consider that. It's very hard for a big company to move very quickly. It's very hard.
José Fernando Escobar, Fundación Science International. En la Fundación consideramos que un complemento importante para la innovación es la propiedad intelectual.
His name is José Fernando Escobar. He works at
Fundación Science International.
Foundation, sorry.
En la fundación creemos que la propiedad intelectual es un buen complemento de protección de la innovación.
The intellectual property is a key factor in innovation.
En tu modelo no encontré o no hubo una expresión con respecto a ese respaldo que la propiedad intelectual puede dar, no solo nacional, sino internacionalmente, a la innovación. Quería preguntarle tu consideración al respecto y complementando la pregunta anterior, donde se hablaba, por ejemplo, de IBM, que se ha dedicado a hacer patentes para fomentar su proyección internacional.
Okay, I'm going to give you a good, I'm going to try to simplify. In your model, he didn't see intellectual property part as an element. So he understands companies as IBM, they're doing business using patents. So he's wondering how you can leverage that.
Sure. So I did tell you guys that whatever your idea is, make sure there's a barrier to entry. Make sure people can't copy you. So I said that. I also didn't pay attention as much to patents, and that was deliberate. I'll tell you why. We made the cell phone at Motorola. It didn't take more than 1 year before Nokia copied it. Ericsson copied it. People were able to make things if they really want to. Patents are ways to keep barriers from people to copy you, but what we have found is people find a way to do the same thing. They find a different way to do it, they do it. That's one thing. The other reason you patent is you want to say, I have the right to play. I have the right to do something. Right? So you got to be careful about patents as the stick for winning. I would prefer you having your customers locked in. I fly American Airlines for the last 15 years. I hate that company. But I got miles. Those miles lock me in. No patents. No patents. That program is better and stickier to keep the customers together forever. Right? It's a different thing than that. You look at the cement companies. Why do you think there's the same cement companies in every country and they've been around for 50, 80 years? Because big investments. Big investments are barriers to entry. So there are other ways to create barriers to entry besides patents. Now, having said that, if you can patent, do it. But don't assume that's going to allow you to win. When we were at Motorola, Nokia would come to us and say, you can't do that. And we would take a big pile of patents and say, we can do that, look. We give them a patent to look at. So their lawyers will look through it and send a letter say that patent was, it was about water. Oh, sorry, here's another one. Oh, another one. And another one. And we basically negotiate until we got tired. Patents were used as negotiating tools for partnerships and licensing. So I'm not saying don't patent. I patented. I believe in patenting, but don't believe patenting will win the game. But today we are seeing some of that happen with Google buying Motorola. We're seeing Microsoft buying Nokia. And right now RIM's patents will be bought by somebody. Somebody wants those patents to be able to make cell phones. Right? It's a different sort of fight which is going on out there. Patents are important, but not the determinant for winning the game. I found that people who just do and build a business from it eventually get patents around it at the right time. but don't start with patents as the starting point to win a business.
Desde ahí para ganar el negocio.
Bueno, vamos a cerrar. Antes de cerrar, un agradecimiento y una nota. Francisco, ¿quieres otra pregunta? ¿Falta alguien? Ok.
I love what you just said because that's a change in paradigm in regard to the view that they have about patents at the university level.
A las ideas que tenemos sobre las patentes a nivel universitario. Eso es una conversación completamente distinta. Entonces mi pregunta es, desde que vienes, tú vienes del ambiente académico, eres una profesora.
This kind of conversation, how is accepted?
¿Cómo es bien aceptada este tipo de conversación en las universidades?
Look, if you're in science and technology, people want to patent, and they will patent to do these things, and they should. But what we are finding, if you look at the top 20 companies which grew very quickly, they were not founded on patents. They were founded on developing some product, some customer, and they build a business out of it. The university must build science, must build technology. And maybe if you're close to a business school, you may be able to partner to take what they're thinking into a commercial product. Patenting by itself is a good activity. Like you can measure how many patents did Motorola do every year? 500. We were very proud of that. But we didn't care about the patents as much. What we cared about was we were thinking about what's next. The patent was just an indicator to stretch us into the future. But it wasn't really to say we will have an exclusivity on something. We knew every time we made something, if the other company was big and strong and they had lawyers, they would just copy. And then they would negotiate by some other technique. So patents can give you confidence, but they are not necessarily the fastest way to commercialization. I'm talking about commercialization. Okay. And it sounds like a strong position here. I came from a company which patented all the time.
Una empresa que hizo muchas patentes, pero bueno, esa es mi posición hoy.
Bueno, vamos a cerrar. Entonces, les había dicho un agradecimiento, una reflexión y ahora una invitación. El agradecimiento especial para María Carolina Suárez, directora ejecutiva de la Asociación de Fundaciones de Empresas. Y viene la reflexión, y es alrededor de conectar puntos. Francisco nos habló del tema de calidad. Ayer el doctor Patel solicitó una camisa de Falcao. Le pregunté, ¿una camisa de Falcao y para quién? Y yo, ¿para mí? ¿Para ti? ¿Para quién? Y digo, no, para mi niño. Y la reflexión es, en el país hemos trabajado muy fuerte el liderazgo de muchas de las personas que están acá para poder llevar la innovación y hacerla real. Hoy en día nos golearon los chilenos, nos metieron 3, pero le sacamos otros 3 y pasamos de primeros y estamos de cabeza. Esto gracias a procesos como se hicieron en el pasado de reconocer con humildad que hay gente buena que quiere contribuir y conectarse. Y esos procesos de facilitación llegaron de afuera, en el caso de la selección, y fue el técnico de Colombia, Peckerman, que armó de adentro un gran equipo y lo logró volver cohesivo. La invitación para el doctor Patel y Scott es que nos ayuden como los Peckermans para poder contribuir en esta Colombia que quiere mejorar y quiere apostar a la innovación para transformarnos como país. Para nosotros ha sido un placer contar con ustedes el día de hoy y con ustedes por darnos ese tiempo y brindarnos ese espacio para poder generar sentido y seguir dando un paso adelante. Y esa es parte de la invitación y la reflexión, pero antes de que se vayan, el doctor Patel quiere compartirles 2 libros, los va a rifar. Las personas que entregaron sus tarjetas, por favor. ¿Dónde está Carlos Tamayo? Que no se haya ido. Muy bien, Carlos, ven acá, por favor. Están pegadas. Listo. Lilian Ramírez. Muy bien, Lilian. Muchas gracias a todos. Aquí falta uno más. Dale. Joari Puentes. Ok, muchas gracias a todos por su tiempo.